Your child does something and it evokes a strong emotional response in you, whether that be just an internal feeling or ends in you yelling. This is what we call a parent trigger. In Daniel Siegel and Mary Hartzell's book, Parenting from the Inside Out, they make an argument that some of our parent triggers can be reduced if we process through the previous experiences that bring about such a strong emotional response. Welcome back to the Bread Therapy Baking Show. My name's Daniel. I'm a professional therapist and hobby baker. Today we're talking parenting triggers and making a nice loaf of French bread. Mary Hartzell gives an example of taking her kids shoe shopping before a new school year. She finds herself irrationally angry and trying to rush her kids to pick out their first shoe choice and just put it in the bag. She realizes after some reflection that she had her own experiences as a child of getting lots of hand-me-downs from her older siblings, as she was one of the youngest children in a big family, or she came from a poorer family that just didn't have the resources to buy the specific shoes she wanted. The disappointment she felt as a child went unresolved, and so a similar experience of shoe shopping with her children, in what could have been a fun and enjoyable time where her kids were excited to go in and pick out a pair of shoes, turned into a negative experience for everyone. Dan Siegel recalls a time when his first child was a baby and was crying relentlessly. He couldn't figure out how to stop his baby from crying, and he wanted to comfort him, but he found this internal feeling of discomfort. He wanted to run out of the room as fast as he could. Now this response kind of surprised him because he had wanted to be a good and present father, and so he didn't know where this came from. In order to process this memory, he sort of tried on the idea, okay, maybe I was allowed to cry a lot as a baby, and so there's some implicit memory here that my body is reacting to hearing my own child cry. And after a little bit of time, he felt like that one didn't really resonate. So as he began to continue to process and think about why is this so difficult for him to hear his own child cry, he remembered an experience in work, in a fellowship, when he was training as a doctor to work with pediatric patients that were coming in with lots of trauma. Often him and some of his colleagues ended up having to hold some of these children down to be able to perform the life-saving care on them that they needed. This was an uncomfortable experience, and he didn't enjoy that part of the job. And he realized that part of the reaction to hearing his own child cry was similar to this past experience. So as he began to process these experiences that he had almost pushed out of his memory, talking about stories from that year with friends and with a therapist, he was able to feel less activated when his own son cried and able to comfort him more. A common parenting trigger that I've seen in my practice as a therapist is working with parents who maybe weren't allowed to feel angry or sad as children. And so these experiences of having those emotions shut down has literally made those emotions now a little bit unfamiliar and maybe even scary. So when they see their toddler or even child exhibiting expressions of anger or sadness, it might make them uncomfortable, and they're not able to respond well or in the way that they want to their child. As they continue to process these past experiences of having the emotions shut down and begin to allow themselves to feel the emotions again, they're better able to manage and respond to their own children's emotions. As a child, I think I learned somewhere along the way to mask anger at times with sarcasm or humor. And so sometimes when my own children get angry about something, I might respond with a quick quip or a funny sarcastic comment that I think is funny, but as you might guess, my children don't think it's funny, and my wife might point out, please stop doing that, it's not funny. So I'd love to hear in the comments, what are some of the parenting triggers that you can identify, and if you're able to trace it back to any particular experience or experiences. And as Dan Siegel did, feel free to quote-unquote try on different experiences that might be the case and see if they resonate. I think it's fairly common to hear someone say, I'm never going to parent like blank. But we don't often have a plan of how we are going to parent like. So if you're interested, my next video will be on how to parent from your values or with your values. So if that's something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.